Thank you so much for making time for us on the Vibe platform. Two ATLians talking about the state of the culture and being a voice for the people to really address the energy of what's going on, the raw emotions, what's happening right now. So let's start off first with introduction. Isaac Hayes III, son of the soul icon, social and political activist, songwriter, producer, president, and CEO of Isaac Hayes Estates. Joined with me, another product of Atlanta, Neima Abdulahi. How are you processing everything as an ambassador for the culture and the people?
Trying to develop strategies and plans moving forward for Black people. Like I'm calm. I'm not angry. I am passionate, but I am emotionless. And I think that gives me a clear space to really think about what needs to be done. And what has to be done. I think anger is the easiest way to dismantle an agenda, especially with Black people in our community. We get offended and then we check out and we kind of pull away from the strategy that we need to have to really execute something beneficial for our community in a way that can be done, you know, a great way to do things.
Mm-hmm. And cases like this are unfolding. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. When you saw this video of George Floyd, how did you process it? Did you immediately watch it, or did you decide, okay, I'm going to come back when I'm emotionally ready to process what happened?
I watched the video one time. I didn't want to watch it more than once. I posted a photo on my page. I just, you know, to hear a man, you know, and at the time I didn't know his mother was deceased, but to hear a man call for his mother who had been passed away, was just, you know, tough for me. Again, I was definitely angry and outraged, and I have to stop, you know, using that term, because I think, you know, your blood pressure, you're angry, you'll say and you'll do things that, you know, you might regret, or thoughts that are really not positive. So I just try to remain focused. You know, there has to be a solution to police brutality, and holding police officers accountable. And there's a lot we can do from our side. And there's so much more that we have to do, but we kind of have to unify around. I always say we have to want to be perfect in our execution, right? We don't want to be scattered and emotional and angry and upset. We want to be perfect in our execution of solving our own plight.
And to see the rapid pace of how things are intensifying in Minneapolis right now. Third night of protesting last night. We're seeing what's happening. Police precinct burned down, so many other places, so many things happening. Do you feel like all of that is a distraction or a result of a problem that's been ignored for so long?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say this. There is video evidence that the initial riots started in Minneapolis were started by a white man. I'm gonna be real clear. He's on videotape. He's dressed in all black. He's allegedly a police officer, but the first vandalism of this entire situation was done by a white man dressed in all black. It's on my page. You see the video. He walks up in a full black outfit with an umbrella and a hammer and a gas mask and starts breaking the windows at AutoZone. If everybody remembers, AutoZone was the first place to be vandalized that night. And so I think it's a way to shift the energy onto the African American people for trying to be violent when there were peaceful protests, and those protests were gaslit by instigators that did that. And I mean, I posted something on my page the other day, and I think people misunderstood what I meant. I said that we are a long way from April 30th, 1992, right? And that was when LA rioted, when just the fact that 4 officers got off for beating Rodney King, not killing him, but beating him, and they were exonerated, LA went crazy. And in 2020, we, you know, videotape our own death. And so when I said we're a long way from April 30th, 1992, to be more clear, I want us to be somewhere between rioting and videotaping our own death. Find that happy medium don't burn your community down, or don't burn down, put yourself in danger with regards to something else that doesn't belong to you. But don't stand there and watch somebody kill another black man.
There's a quote by Will Smith that really grabbed my attention. It's being shared all over social media. He said, racism is not getting worse, it's getting filmed. And when we see an incident like this and all the other situations, it makes me think, what about all the other situations that were never documented by a cell phone, body cam, dash cam?
Right.
And where do we go? This may be a small percentage of what's really happening in the country.
It is. I mean, data reveals things, and we're in a period in time right now where we have the data to show a pattern. So the pattern, when we're filming and recording these incidents with police, we're starting to see the data says that police are a lot more violent towards people of color than other races. They get off more. I mean, they're usually never prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And then when the tables are reversed, black police officers are prosecuted and go to jail far more for the same offenses. And police brutality is police brutality, but they go to jail far more than black people. So it's the way the criminal justice system is set up. Well, not set up. I don't want to say set up. That's the wrong word to use. The way that the criminal justice system is populated is really what puts us at a disadvantage. I don't want to say that the setup is bad. It's set up to be what it is. But I think we can't demand justice without participating in justice. So when there are juries and judges and police officers and defense attorneys and district attorneys, the justice system is set up the way the justice system is set up. We have to infiltrate and saturate the justice system. And that's what we need to do. Infiltrate, saturate the justice system so that there are people of color, more people of color on juries, more prosecutors of color, more defense attorneys of color, more judges of color, and more politicians and people being involved in the process. So the justice system is not going to change. You're not going to change the justice system in the sense of just somebody's going to miraculously change it. But I think we have to change it. And the way that we change it is actually infiltrate the system and work it out.
And you brought up a good conversation a few weeks ago about the value of making sure you're voting for your city council, county commissioners, DA's office on a very local level. While the attention may be on the presidential race, you really try to make sure people are also paying attention to local elections. Tell us a little bit about the value of that, because people may not always think they can make a difference on a local level.
Well, my version of the Black agenda, and this is a tough conversation that I've had with some people that I respect, Charlemagne, people that I respect, that are really active in the community, and we see things differently. And one of the things that he said that I think I differ in opinion on is the fact that he said that the Democratic Party doesn't do anything or hasn't done anything for Black people. And so being a resident of Atlanta for as long as I have been, I have a different perspective. I have a different opinion of that, because all I've known is democracy to work for the benefit of Black people in a city like this. And I say things like the assassination of Martin Luther King from 1968. So in 5 years, from 1968 to 1973, by 1973, we had the first Black mayor in the city of Atlanta, Mayor Jackson. At that point, Mayor Jackson integrates the police force. He forces banks to loan money to Black people. He gets 25% contracts, inclusion, creating the joint venture system in the city of Atlanta. And then he creates the MPU system, which gives the power of the neighborhoods. And there's no other system like the MPU system that Maynard created in Atlanta anywhere else in America, where the community has to say what gets built in the community. So for me, that's the Black agenda. You know, democracy is very, very simple. It's majority rules. That's it. You know, you gather a bunch of people. They say, this is the guy we want. He fits our ideals and our agenda and what we want. We put money behind him. We put our votes behind him. We place that person in office. And they still have to follow the rule of law, but they can also pass legislation that benefits the people in the community. So in Atlanta, we just happen to be a majority Black city. So we write ourselves into policy, which gives us economic opportunity, protection under the law, because our police force is 58% African American, things like that. So that's putting the Black agenda in action. There's things that the president can do that are sweeping, but nothing affects you more than the day-to-day interaction with your police officers, your mayor, your city council, and all those things. So you really have to get down into the what's going on in my neighborhood and how I can do to fix it.
Atlanta has seen a seismic shift since Maynard Jackson. You know, before him, there was Ivan Allen Jr., there was Sam Massell, there was William Hartsfield. But after Maynard Jackson, we have seen a pattern of Black leadership in the city of Atlanta, which makes Atlanta what it is today. For other cities that don't have that strong root of a Black culture, there is still an opportunity to be the voice for your own community, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think Sylvester Turner's doing a great job in Houston, Texas. Shout out to Sylvester Turner. There are a lot of cities that have Black politicians, but I think more than anything, these pockets of African-American majority demographics, we need to really realize where we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, really realize where we can exercise the best opportunity for our people. And I say this humbly. We have to start putting who we are before where we're from. Culture defines us. And I understand that when you are from New York, or you're from Chicago, or from Houston, or New Orleans, or Atlanta, or wherever you're from, that there's such an identity that goes with where you live. That's fine. But when you get to a point of adulthood, and there's a time to exercise the ability to succeed in a world where you really have to pay attention to the law and the mayor and the city council, when it really affects your life on a day-to-day basis as an adult, you have to start to migrate to places that you can actually change with your vote and with your power. There's no way that I know people that live in the Bronx or in certain areas of New York City that will never have political power, but they're getting beat over the head every day and they're never going to leave. And for me, if you are the minority in that situation, you have two decisions to make. You can either leave and go to another place where you can exercise your democratic power in a community that can benefit you, or you can deal with the situation that you live in until the odds, the demographic shift in your favor to really make a change. So you can wait it out, or you can migrate. And a lot of people decide to migrate to Atlanta from all over.
A big conversation we're also seeing is the difference between Black culture and Black experience. There seems to be a huge embrace of Black culture, Black music, Black Hollywood. But when it comes to being Black in America, oftentimes the allies who may embrace the culture may not always speak up. Tell us about the difference between those two things and what we need as a culture to make sure that there is outrage from all humanity when things happen to Black people.
I think that a lot of times the white people that participate in Black culture don't feel like it's their place to stand in a situation with Black people and to be the voice. So we need to be more welcoming in bringing people, instead of just waiting for them or demanding that they do, be more welcoming with what they are, what they want to do. Now, some people are culture vultures. Some people are, that's what they're going to do. But I think that also to benefit ourselves, we have to be intentional about owning the infrastructures that benefit other people other than us in more ways, right? When COVID-19 hit, if it wasn't for D-Nice, Swiss and Tim, Tory Lanez, and all the young kids that have been making this content on Snapchat that goes viral, quarantine would be unimaginable. We'd be very, very bored about what's going on. But we don't own the infrastructure to these platforms that we're on right now. And our culture moves these things. It is impossible to market and promote anything with the idea that it is cool without the assistance of Black people. We are the apex of cool. So if you want to make something, you can make something exciting and fun and sentimental and romantic, but cool is Black. That's us. And so we need to leverage our culture in a way that gives us opportunity and start to own infrastructures, apps, television stations, radio stations, media corporations. We are seeing a huge vacuum and a disservice to the Black community in some of our Black media outlets that do not consistently have 24/7 programming for African-American people where they can get COVID-19 tests, where they can find loans, where they can get protective equipment. We don't even have tickers on the bottom of screens of some of these networks.
That's been a huge discussion, and you also facilitated that conversation last year. And that topic alone garnered national and international attention because you brought up an issue at hand. We are the #1 export of the culture, right? As far as content creators, but we don't own that content. So there is a huge gap between being the face of the brand and not owning the brand.
Absolutely.
And that's a narrative that you've been really pushing to advocate and encourage young content creators to make sure we're telling our own stories. And at the same time, we have the platforms to do it.
Yeah, I think we need to take pages from Tyler Perry, right? And the page that I take from Tyler Perry is Tyler is the type of individual that recognized his audience, catered to his audience, and then gained power and wealth from dealing directly with his audience. Now that comes from his mindset, right? And so Tyler's been in Atlanta for a while. And I say this, and I'll continue to repeat this. There's such a thing called the minority mindset. And the minority mindset is something that if you live in Atlanta, you don't grow up with that mindset. And that's the mindset that white people, white supremacy runs everything, and Black and Latino and Asian and African culture and power fall somewhere in second or third place. In Atlanta, I do not feel like a minority. There's never a day that I woke up and felt like there was somebody white stopping me from something that I try to do, from getting a job, from getting home safe at night, from being able to feel comfortable eating at a restaurant. Whatever I wanted to do, the sky's the limit based on what I dream and how hard that I work. So in other places, that gives Tyler Perry the confidence to say, you know what, I don't need you, you need me. I own my culture. I'm gonna do this deal with BET, this $200 million deal with BET Plus, but it's a $100 million deal. So he's the only person that can walk into rooms like that and say, take it or leave it, and walk out. That's not that type of energy. Outside of this city, the idea of success for a lot of people is breaching white supremacy, breaching the barriers, infiltrating neighborhoods where white people don't want you to live, but just to show them that you have the wealth and the status to exist around them is something that I never want, and it makes no sense. And if you're truly, truly, truly for Black people, there's no way that you move as far away from Black people as you possibly can. I'm not saying move to the hood, but there are communities of color and neighborhoods of color in cities around America that have wealth and prosperity that you could choose to live in. And in Atlanta, you live anywhere in Atlanta, even Buckhead, you're around Black people. You're around.
This is a huge topic. I'm so glad that you have brought this topic to the forefront, constantly talking about it. Let's address the solidarity protests that we're also seeing. We're seeing other protests pop up in solidarity of what's happening in Minneapolis. Atlanta has one scheduled today at 4 p.m. At Centennial Olympic Park and at the CNN Center. What message do you have for anyone in the city of Atlanta or in other cities joining in solidarity to make sure that we as a community are heard nationally?
I think that, it's a great idea. I think we need to turn the volume up on that. I think we need more people to participate in a protest. And there's some things that I was talking about today with some colleagues of mine that we're working on to actually take this and expand it. Movements need money. Movements need donations. We need leadership. We need all these things. And as a community, we have to start to come together to fund and funnel our energy and effort into those 2 or 3 sources that can really spearhead and grow our movements. But those movements need donations. They need funds. We need to participate and give what we can give. And there are ways that I'm working to do that. I am totally happy that we are expressing, especially in this city, with the leadership that we have with our mayor, that we are going to peacefully express our feelings about what's going on and stand with our brothers and sisters in Minneapolis and continue to do so in the way that we know how. And we want to be a change in this community. I'm a bit of a problem solver, and I'm working on ways of solving our issues with law enforcement. I think there's an information gap between us and law enforcement. I feel like they have the ability to know so much about us, and we don't know about them. The first thing that I did when George Floyd got killed is I looked up Derek Chauvin's record. He had about 13 instances of reports filed against him. He was only disciplined 1 time. One time he murdered somebody, he killed someone. I'm not gonna say murdered, he killed someone. 2 other times I think he shot unarmed black people or shot people of color, and was not punished for that. And so we have to have that information. Our community needs to know that you might be at a traffic stop, and the officer that's stopping you might be a person like him. And if you know that he's like that, that also might change his tone. That also might give a different tone and understanding of who you're dealing with. And so we have to create data and information and databases and real-time information for people of color to know who is this guy, whether he's a black cop, a white cop, a female cop, it does not matter. They're good cops and they're bad cops, and there's really no way to tell the good from the bad. But all you have in this world is your reputation, right? And so if you have the ability, and with police officers, if their reputation precedes them, then that's how you know. And so we have to start looking at police officers by their reputation, not by their badge, because everybody has a badge, but there are good cops and there are bad cops. And we need some way to separate the good from the bad in an instantaneous manner and know who we're dealing with.
Right. You and I have the same feeling right now, and we're feeling like the rest of the nation. It is exhausting being a minority in America.
Absolutely.
And we pray and hope that the family of George Floyd get justice. If you could say anything to his family directly, face to face, what message do you have for that grieving family at this moment? If you could directly express your condolences for him.
I feel your pain for someone that has lost their mother and now their brother in such a disrespectful, disgraceful way. I pray for your family. I pray for this country. I do not think that what is happening in this country with 2020, it's so significant with 2020 being just that even year. COVID-19 has everybody inside. This is kind of a moment that we can't look away because everybody's on their phones more than ever. And so this issue is kind of, coronavirus has made people face things that they haven't. And America has to face this issue with race. I think Donald Trump is the president that we deserve at the time that we got him. And so we're either going to learn our lesson in November or we're not. And the death of George Floyd should serve as inspiration and focus as to what we need to do in November. Like unapologetically, unilaterally, and energetically, enthusiastically remove Donald Trump from office. That's what we need to do. And I pray that his family gets justice. I pray that the other officers involved are also arrested and prosecuted. If you're a party to a crime, first responders are there to deliver aid. The moment that someone says they are in distress, you immediately switch to aid the individual. They did not do that. He cried out multiple times that he could not breathe. You're a first responder. You're supposed to respond to trauma. They did not do that. So they all deserve to go to jail. And I hope that they do.
We appreciate you checking in. Two Products of Atlanta, talking on the Vibe magazine platform. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Juan and Christine. Hopefully we continue this conversation, and the next person up is Kenny Burns at 2 o'clock. So we'll continue this discussion. Thank you so much for making time for us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.